those two teams, because they both come in knowing that they needed wins. And I've slept on Invictus a little bit, and you know, that's absolutely on me, and I'm hoping that they prove me wrong again. Let's have this really mixed up here. Let's have them coming in. We need that strong APAC representation, and I for one would love to see it.
It's a spice in the mixed bands coming out. Speaking about the NA teams here on the B stream, at least constantly being the ones banning away the Thatcher, but without an NA team, someone else has to take that mantle. In this case, it's going to be Invictus, with that coming out as their first ban. Twice tonight, the Empires had Thatcher banned away against them, probably because of the damage they did with it against Na'Vi back in EUL. Not surprised to see it not being allowed. Nomad the next one, and surely, Tim, Valkyrie will follow. I
would imagine so. With the Nomad not being available, I'd be very surprised. There we go. Off goes Valkyrie. We're going to have one more defensive ban. I'd expect to see something like a Mirror. Very popular ban here on Consulate, especially for those bottom floors. But no, it's going to be Wabai that's going by the buy for Invictus.
Same as we saw earlier on. It's been banned away already today. Actually, forget which map it was on. It was on this actual game earlier on. So yeah, the bans that Empire came away with were Nomad and Wamai, and Liquid banned away Thatcher Valkyrie. So it's identical bans coming through, albeit slightly twisted towards which team is the one actually making the ban in the first place. So familiar ground, you would wager for the side of Empire, except their opponents are an entirely different team. I think given the success that we saw of the roaming operators coming out for Invictus on Villa, things like the Mozzie, things like the Vigil, be really surprised not to see them get brought along a couple of times on this map.
We're going to have HysteRiX actually 6th picking away from the Vigil onto the Melusi, but I think you're right. I think we will see that that heavy roam presence. They had quite a lot of success with it, especially HysteRiX. We saw a number of occasions coming in with pretty big moments out there on the roam. It's going to be defending down in Garage to start us off with for the first round. Lockdown Garage and Cafeteria. It was a site that Empire did pretty well on last time. Able to at least get in, get access. They don't think they managed to actually get the diffuser down at any point, which is unusual for them because it is a site that we've seen them be very successful with the plants on.
Twice enough that we're seeing the fuse coming through. Just have those changes coming in. The Year 6 Season 3 patch, which goes onto the TTS tomorrow. Changes now where it will channel for 3 seconds and then breach through a hard reinforced wall. That'll be a real spicy one to see it when it comes into effect. But for now, Dan doing a little bit of service and bringing it along in this pre-hard breaching state. I think more if anything else, it really helps you in clearing out the garage. So where you look towards things like the Thatcher previously on the side of Empire, here you can turn towards that fuse, blow up all the soft gadgets that are still inside of the garage quite comfortably. And suddenly the defenders are scattered to the high winds and have to get themselves backed away.
Yeah, I mean, Fuse has always been used for two main functions. First is clearing out utility, as you've said, using those pucks to just get in there and explode out any utility, barbed wire, any electricals, anything like that that they come into contact with. But also, Fuse has been used for pushing defenders around. If you have somebody that's sat in a corner, you put a fuse charge above them, send them in, they're going to have to move out of there. And if you've got somebody holding that angle, hopefully you pick them up on the rotate. And as you say, being able to do that through the hard reinforcements is just going to increase his ability to be able to do that, and the more spots he will be able to do it from. Now, attention being paid towards the top floor here, but from the silhouettes, I don't think we've got anybody playing up there. We've got HysteRiX on yellow stairs. He's going to drop back down, so there's a couple present on the mid floor, but Empire, if they choose to do so, can get themselves into the top floor and take control very quickly here.
Cheeky opening up as well. I think hoping to find someone inside a meeting nice and early. One thing I will touch on, by the way, for Empire on their attack here with the sledge, pairing up with the thermite, heading out towards the garage door. Earlier on against Liquid, they committed both of their frags through the drone hole and couldn't destroy the electroclaw because it was so high in the ceiling. Here, they've gone and got it open inside 50 seconds. So a big difference here in terms of the positioning from the Kite electroclaws for Invictus compared to Liquid that has enabled Empire to get that breach open in no time at all.
And the thing is, that is the difference sometimes between top teams and, you know, championship teams and top teams. You've got Liquid there who have managed to just pay attention to that fine detail and keep that breach closed longer than, you know, Invictus haven't done anything wrong there. They're a good team, but it just shows the difference sometimes that it can take.
Ooh, I mean, C4 does come up as well and almost catches out onto Dan. Didn't quite destroy his gadget either, as that did get a full charge completion off. And this is what you're seeing now, that clear on the downstairs. Any gadgets that might be left are most definitely going to get fried. Jordan is still hanging in here as well. I think they know about it, but he loses from the vertical. Dan doesn't care whether it's by explosive or by gun. He's happy to clear out whoever he needs to. One now coming inside a cafeteria, forces Joe away. And you can see how pretty much all of Invictus were forced away towards the northeast here. Scyther, the one dead on Spiral, and now ShepparD's going into the plant. This is what you see coming out of this fuse that can work so well. ShepparD being gassed out, not quite finished off, and now the spray comes through. A 3 versus 2 for Invictus and 15 seconds on the clock. Gonna have to see a scramble coming out of Always and Dan.
The big problem for Empire here being that the diffuser is down cold on the ground, so Dan looks to push his way in. He needs to find more kills. Can't do it as the final ones come in from Joe and Lunarmetal, and that is going to be Invictus taking round number 1 with a solid defensive garage. ShepparD did have an opportunity to get in there, started to plant in front of the white van, but a very well placed smoke canister from SpeakEasy just forced him out of there and into the line of sight of one of his teammates.
I mean, that smoke canister, the one that got ShepparD off the plant, was the key one. Otherwise, they're back out that breach. Diffuser is down, and it's a bit of a mammoth task for the defenders to come and win back. Second floor we head up to, then Clash being swapped in at the last second, so the pulse changed out. Lunarmetal bringing that along. It isn't quite the Monty that he is so famed for, but it is still a shield operator, and we know how problematic Clash can be. We see it drawing bans in Europe away from players like Patbull, who know how to play it incredibly well. See the time Patbull Luna can be on it.
He's always a fascinating operator to watch. I mean, we look on the side of Empire. You've got Dan with the Sophia. So Empire have got a direct counter there. They've also got Always with the nades as well. They've got Iana with the nades on Scyther. So there's not really any excuses for not being able to deal with the Clash. It's going to take some great skill on the side of Lunarmetal to keep that shield operator alive and particularly effective into the late round. With the amount of utility that's there potentially, I'd expect to see that Clash bullied around a little bit here.
You'd hope so. You'd hope so, but it depends, of course, where that utility actually gets committed. Jordan being a little bit cheeky towards the spawn pick to start things out. This yellow doorway, hoping to find someone. No one spawning on that side means, at least for now, Empire are going to be safe. Quite a lot of mobility coming out early on, actually, from Invictus. Like a couple of members roaming out. One out towards yellow. One here holding in towards lobby. Trying to be quite cheeky. And I think greet Empire inside of admin. They are a admin team. They love attacking inside of admin. So maybe that's part of the play from the side of Invictus, is to be disruptive and get here early on.
HysteRiX just going to take a drone out, drop himself back down to the basement, looking to keep mobile with the Mozzie. Something that we quite often associate with Citizen of G2. He has a fantastic Mozzie player here on console, and HysteRiX is going to be looking to emulate that. You could certainly go further wrong than being able to emulate the players of somebody like Citizen. Now, immediate attention from the rooftop down through that skylight there, just spotting out the footprints around there, so they know that there's people being active at the very least on the top floor. Jordan is still at the top of yellow stairs. Of course, the site is up there, so you would expect them to be in and around that area, but just confirms that there is a yellow stairs presence.
See with the CEO hole on the go as well. They won't get Jordan out of yellow ideally. I mean, you can't really contest across because the wall hasn't been opened up, I don't believe. But it's more that Luna's here to provide support at the same time, so no one can come charging their way up yellow. Bathroom will probably be a thing to think about. And oh, that's a great little play set up there as well. It's normally why you have that right-hand panel reinforced. Dan picking out Jordan as he's forced to step away from the flash coming in. And that's the yellow player removed. Exactly what Empire were looking for.
Dan with the entry once again. And Empire just really reliant on him at the minute. But as long as those kills keep flowing, it is not going to matter too much. Now, Lunarmetal just still active inside of the console office. And this is what I said, that utility is going to be used. It's going to be focused towards that shield. In comes the first nade, and that's going to just do a little bit of chip damage to the Clash there. So well thought off so far. Dan gets in and gets aggressive with a headshot onto SpeakEasy. 45 seconds left to go, and Luna's taking more damage here.
I mean, the fact that he's gone in and got 2 kills for himself is pretty naughty in the first place. JoyStiCK into another from yellow. Almost like the disrespect to the fact that you knew yellow had been lost and you're still not being able to challenge onto it or aren't paying it the attention that you're meant to, will sting them back ever so slightly. And here we go. A 1 versus 4 for Joe. MP5K on side, so has a bit of range to be able to go for a challenge here. One comes straight singing in towards his face, but plant is going down. Cannot hold anything. Dan spraying through the smoke to connect to 3K in the round. He's continuing as he started earlier on, Ace, with a brilliant game and a brilliant start so far.
There's no stopping him at the minute, and if this continues, he's going to have a big tournament here. He just needs to keep this sort of momentum over the next few days, and I've got a feeling that Empire will be just fine, but they need to make sure that the others are chipping in. They can't leave it all to Dan, because one bad game from him could then be the end of things. It could be the start of a spiral out of the tournament, so they don't want to leave it hanging on such a fine wire. Now then, they're going to be attacking onto Archives and Tellers this time. It's going to be the first time, I think, that we've seen the split site so far today. We've seen Press and Lobby in that Liquid game, but we didn't get a look at Archives Tellers. So generally speaking, the attackers of Empire here, they're going to want to get top floor control. They want to move in, at least take admin, copy, vending machines area. If they can push across and take meeting as well, it stops them being sort of pressured onto from that top floor, but the defenders will likely have left there by then. Then move down into Visas and look for a plant inside of Tellers. We can see there's 2 Nitros on the side of Invictus. They need to manage that and be careful just about where they're playing. There's 1 on mute, 1 on pulse, and they're going to be looking for vertical denial of that plant.
Absolutely. The mirror is what makes me nervous. I always remember Empire playing the mirror on maps like Oregon, on Consulate, and just how terrifying they are at using the operator effectively, even when they were in some of their shakier states as a team. So I am nervous about thinking on the second defensive half for IG and how they'll be able to break such holds, but for now at least, making good use of it for themselves. I always admit that missed this. In fact, they're going to do it here. Do you remember this one against Virtus Pro? That one was the real danger hold. Real strong one where you sit behind here with a couple of mute jammers, ADSs, you have some protection from the copy window, and you just challenge teams that are trying to take admin. I think it was G2 against Virtus Pro who absolutely hammered them using this setup, and now Empire, so now Invictus are using it against Empire, Virtus Pro's Russian comrades.
The thing is, you can quite often waste a minute to a minute and a half without even playing anybody in there. You can just put the utility there, and just that one-way mirror that teams cannot see through from admin is enough to hold them out for long enough. If you've got your mute jammers in there so the drones can't go in, they don't necessarily know there's nobody playing in there. It takes them a while to go in and face check it. So even sometimes just the utility, you don't even have to risk the life. But if you do put somebody in behind there, there's a strong power position for them to potentially get kills from.
Little score update for you, by the way, from the other stream. We've just seen side of Team 1 lose 7-8 to the Sonics on this exact same map as well, Consulate. So that's another unexpected result. Today has been full of surprises. I'm living for it, Ace. It's what we love from a bit of international competition. As a side note, always picking up the opening kill here onto Joe.
It's the absolute best bit, and I think the absence of that competition for a little while has just really sharpened the focus on that being the best bit, is the surprises and the unexpected nature, the way that some of these results play out. It's just so difficult to predict, and seeing those styles and those different regional differences come together and clash is always so fascinating.
Oh, it's great.
Right now, 5 versus 4, 5 versus 3 as Scyther steps around, gets the kill onto Visas, and this is looking like, you were right, there's a more difficult game for Invictus here as Empire. They're looking pretty sharp, but Lunarmetal manages to get a kill to just try and bring things back for Invictus, but no, Dan from the skylight gets himself another inside of the game here. He's going well with 6 so far inside 3 rounds, and it's 4 versus 2.
I mean, Dan is the man on a mission at this point. 6 kills for himself inside 3 rounds. The rest of the team, yeah, sure, playing a little bit of catch at the long angle contest. A bit of a swing from Luna that you'll be asking questions about. But Empire now twice in the round have had a good 2 versus 1. SpeakEasy gets the shutdown, but always drops like Batman from the sky. Finds himself the closing kill. Empire, 2 rounds in the bounce.
Good performance from Empire there, taking the kills and, more importantly, putting Invictus in really bad situations. We saw a number of times where a player would make a challenge, turn to try and run away, and they were just running into gunfire. It was very, very difficult for Invictus, very uncomfortable, no room for maneuver there for them, and it's as if Empire just knew everywhere that they were. Scyther's kill onto Visa stairs, I'm thinking of. He was fully aware that the man was there, just stepped around, a nice easy pre-fire, and you're never going to lose those ones at this level. So Empire doing very, very well, and no surprise to see, after I say that, Des, the 6th pick comes in, HysteRiX has gone back to Vigil.
On the other side, you're not seeing anything as crazy as the fuse coming in, but that vigil, we spoke about it a lot on the previous map. Mentioned it at the very start in round 1 when they 6-picked it away. The damage that it did in the prior map was an absolute terror. And sure enough here, look at him. He wants these drones so bad, but they're all scampering away. Not wanting to lose an early life to the man trying to be cheeky at the front door, because especially for those shock drones, you want to keep those alive relatively, always want to keep them alive in the prep phase, but keep them alive also relatively late into the round as you get the recharge. They do spawn with 3 charges, but they do also rebuild up over time, albeit quite slowly, the longer you keep them alive.
HysteRiX is going to be one to watch here. Just gets himself off into Visa for the time being. There wasn't a particularly strong top floor presence from Invictus. They were pushed away from that pretty quickly last time they defended Garage back in round 1. They did ultimately manage to get the win. The access to Garage was pretty much irrelevant for Empire in the end. They tried to get in and get the diffuser down, but Invictus were very good at covering it off. Now then, I don't know if there's a bit of information coming in there, but as that charge gets applied, just look at that, Des. Absolute fractions of seconds we're talking about there, and it was perfect. I'm not sure Empire are aware, because they just ran away. They activated the charge and ran away from it. I mean, they must know by now.
Because the Twitch was there as well. Scyther had the Twitch drone coming at the exact same time that the Kai electric core was going off. But Jordan was just a bit too quick. Snapshot onto the Twitch drone. Stopped it destroying the electro core. It goes off and Empire go, okay then. Now we need to go and clear elsewhere on the map before we can even think about trying to get this wall open. So I imagine that is now going to be the game plan.
HysteRiX gets himself inside a bathroom after taking a little bit of damage from the anti-chamber direction there. So he's just going to take a few pot shots out towards Dan on that main door. Not going to connect with anything for the time being. The Zephyr will send the drone in. HysteRiX is a little bit stuck here. You can see top and bottom of your screen, we've got those sort of white static symbols. That just shows that the gadget for Vigil is active at that time, so Dan's drone won't spot him out. Now, any actions that he takes, such as throwing an impact nade or taking shots, reinforcing, basically anything that you would visually be able to see that isn't covered by his scanner, so isn't his person, that will take him out of that invisibility. So throwing that impact nade and giving himself a rotation, he did expose himself, but Dan goes in. There's a bit of a challenge, and they both find themselves on roughly the same HP here.
No way has HysteRiX managed to get out of here. Got a drone on him the whole time. Surely they know. Now they see him. Managed to get himself back down to site, evading everyone that could possibly be around him. Managed to be playing a stealth game the way he's dodged around all those sight lines coming out of Empire, but gets himself back to site and has wasted about 2 minutes of time.
And that wall is still closed at this point in time. There's been no success on the breach. ShepparD still has an exothermic charge in pocket, but it's going to be very late at this point in time trying to get it open. JoyStiCK, look at the reactions, manages to flip 180 and shut down HysteRiX. He's fortunate that the man was low health, takes a little bit of damage himself, but not too much. The Jackal track is just going to force one back. He knows there's a challenge to be made, but SpeakEasy, he's having absolutely none of that. Fronts up to the scans of JoyStiCK and shuts him down as he drops the hatch. 4 versus 4, and we've got a crouch walking Zephyr of Dan coming down the spiral staircase. That is unbelievable on such low health. Des gets himself 2. ShepparD gets 1. 3 versus 1. Scyther finishes it off, and that is all about Dan's play. He has got about 30 HP and has to hit that headshot on the man led prone and finds it.
Out of SpeakEasy waiting for that one as well. You'll be kicking yourself because there's no excuse like Pika's advantage. This is LAN. Ping is 0. Like, you see him when he sees you. That was just pure reaction speed. A nice little, like, cute flick coming out from Dan as well. Again, dragging Empire over the finish line as we saw in the earlier game. And sure, it's a bit of a one-man army, but it feels a little bit different here because Empire are raising to the challenge as a team. They're at least getting involved far more, even if it is ultimately Dan being the one walking away with the kills.
That's it. Kills don't necessarily tell the whole story. You know, we need to look at a bigger picture there. JoyStiCK came in. He had the entry. He got things started, feeding information in with those Jackal tracks. We had ShepparD trying to get the diffuser down, and it wasn't an easy round for Empire. There was a lot of work to be done after that initial electrical trick onto the exothermic charge. It certainly wasn't straightforward. That's a site that Empire will usually open that wall up within the first minute or so. Now, that's an interesting reinforcement coming in from Invictus there. Just the far left panel that Lunarmetal, we spoke about this earlier, and usually put in a line of sight in there so that you can challenge from yellow stairs onto the plant spot. They've chosen not to do that, and certainly one to watch as this round progresses. If Empire choose to plant anywhere around that desk area, it could be a problem for Invictus.
Yeah, we didn't do it in the earlier round either. Back in round number 2, when they played it out as well, they did not. They also chose not to go for the same sort of thing there. I think it's one of those kind of stylistic things, like some people who like to reinforce the right panel rotate on Clubhouse into CC from Garage. Like, sometimes it's you got spare reinforcement, you want to make use of it. In some cases, you know, you don't want to play someone on yellow, you're just there to waste a little bit of time. There's all kinds of reasons stylistically that it might be done, or perhaps even more crazy, they just aren't aware of that sort of setup. You just don't know, I guess.
I think, as you say, it's probably more likely an active choice that they've been making. The thing is, you don't necessarily get a lot of plants in behind the desk. Quite often, they try to run deeper into sight to avoid that exact line of sight, amongst others. So, you know, it could just be that they don't see much value from it anymore as teams have learned to play around it. But right now, Scyther, he's playing around that connector window. He's going to open one up, and that was an easy kill onto SpeakEasy there. Just barely manages to touch into his ADS before finding the headshot, and that's going to be a big start for Empire in round 5. You just starting to feel, Des, that the tide is turning for them, and this is starting to run away in their favour.
Slowly getting that way, absolutely. Another opening death coming through for the side of Invictus. They're looking good here, are starting to bleed members. In fact, haven't had a single one so far in this game. Every single round, the opening kill has gone the way of Empire. They're looking control, and even with that clash on side to try and waste a bit of time, it's still not stopping Empire finding advantages elsewhere around the map.
Getting aggressive onto yellow door here, Jordan, potentially looking for a run out. Obviously needs to be careful. It's usually a door that's monitored because of the console window rappel. So you'll normally have at least a Claymore down there, potentially, if not other utility. Obviously the Nomad isn't available, but if nothing else, there'll usually be somebody sat there actively watching that area, as there are no Claymores available, so they could be susceptible to the run out. Joe just holding an angle onto that bathroom rappel.
They've opened that really interesting wall. Like we have a look at Easy, actually. The one between connector and console. They've opened the middle one and reinforced the one on the left against the window to stop them being able to challenge onto the clash. You don't normally leave that one soft in the middle because you get this angle all the way through from CEO console window or console window straight through into meeting. So it's a little bit curious. But I guess in this case, they want to be able to let the clash move around quite freely and feel confident taking those long-range challenges themselves. One challenge at least works out for them because it's JoyStiCK who's gone down, 4 versus 4. But again, Empire have got the clock to worry about. We're into the final 20 seconds. They're in a 2 versus 4, and there's a clash on board. This is going to be an easy closeout for Invictus.
It has to be. You'd be really surprised to see Empire be able to turn this around. They just don't have the utility necessary to deal with that clash. Joe gets the first onto ShepparD. Scyther finds one, and then a melee. That's a big risk, but with time ticking by, it's too little too late. Des, he has to try and get the diffuser down. Can't come off, and it's an easy cleanup for Jordan. Invictus getting themselves back into it once again, and where have we seen this before?
It's one of those, isn't it? They started out a little bit slow against TSM. In fact, for TSM, it was what, 5-2 by the end of round 7, and then they come back and win 5 rounds on the bounce. It is only a small start for Invictus. It's something giving themselves 2 rounds, the same as how it played out for them in their first half against TSM. So give a bit of time, and we'll see how things set up. But that was the second round, by the way. The Empire have not strictly lost to the clock, but come very close to losing, and in this round did actually lose as a result of the clock running too low. That's something we've always criticised them for. Back in EUL, them and Virtus Pro, 2 of the worst teams that we saw with the clock, left things a little bit late, got themselves stung in the backside when it came around to the final 20 seconds. I do want to see them using that clock a little bit better here. There isn't a whole ton to do on Consulate compared to some other maps. Let's make sure we're being effective here and looking towards going for an execute.
With the final defensive round, then down inside of Garage, we've seen them defend this twice, win 1, lose 1, and the opening round was their successful one, but then Empire were able to take it off them back in round 4 this time. I'm going to try it again. Invictus getting active out and around in the map. HysteRiX on the Malusi. We've seen him roaming consistently both throughout the TSM game and here against Empire. He's had slightly less impact this time around. He's only got 2 kills inside of the first 5 rounds, and HysteRiX being dealt with and shut down much better by Team Empire.
Alrighty. At least here, I'm thinking time-wise, again, is the one big thing I'm looking out for as a difference maker in this round. Early jackal track coming in from JoyStiCK onto the Melusi. Trying to deal with the craziness of some of these members of IG that do want to get out in the map. It is Invictus, sorry, not Invictus. It is HysteRiX time and time again. The one who is looking to be the cheeky one. The one who wants to get out in the map and try and cause a little bit of pandemonium for the side of Empire as they push him from their oh-so-typical admin take, which we're so often used to seeing. Now he knows that one's gone beelining back down the stairs. HysteRiX back on site. Knowing him, he won't be downstairs for long. He'll be straight back up into the stairway.
That's it. He's just going to rotate back up the Visa stairs and look to make another challenge. Pre-placed Nitro will be unsuccessful, but very, very close. JoyStiCK taking some damage there, but will now just use that vertical angle to see if he can get a view down onto anybody. HysteRiX comes awfully close to always there. I'm not sure if he's aware that there's a man inside a piano. It was pretty brazen how he just went running past the doorway there. But he does make it up to the top of yellow stairs to try and make a challenge onto JoyStiCK here. He's going to need to push forward as JoyStiCK is well aware of his presence, but just takes his eye off the ball, and HysteRiX takes full advantage of that and gets the kill, but he needs to rotate and move around to come back from somewhere else. Now then, this could be an interesting job. Always was playing inside of piano. He knows that there's a man up above him now, but will he come from the stairs? Will he come from the hatch? There's no way for Always to really know this.
I'd say holding that one a little bit long there. Takes a bit of chip damage for it as well. Right idea, I think, knowing that HysteRiX is playing around upstairs above. He's been up and down all 3 floors of this map like a jack-in-the-box, Tim. Can't seem to really lock him down into a spot where he needs to be dealt with. Otherwise, he's going to be that thorn in the backside, that man in the bathtub, as we saw on Villa against TSM not too long ago.
He certainly is, and the thing, he's up on the top floor. He's still wasting time. It's not completely stopping Empire from going about their business, but look at Dan. He's constantly in his ADS. He's watching for that man coming back, because as soon as they both focus on that garage floor, there is every possibility that HysteRiX just drops this hatch and gets himself a 2K. So they need to be very careful. HysteRiX, he's obviously cautious that he's going to get challenged from yellow stairs. He's just trying to deal with that. But right now, Empire, they've certainly got their eyes on 2 different targets here, and that could be a problem for them.
I think HysteRiX at this point realizes they're not going to come to him, so he best go to them. Takes the gunfight, but can't win it. Scyther winning one that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but once again, that clock has run down to nothing. They've got the yellow control. The plant's going in. SpeakEasy, sorry. Joe trying to do what they can. A 2K for SpeakEasy is just what you want. Dan's down. They've won, but they don't know it at this point. In fact, I think they do. They'll finish the man off, and they've managed to clutch it out. A 3K for SpeakEasy. 1 from Joe to contribute. Invictus turning 2 versus 4 into victory.
You'd love to see Invictus continuing to challenge here, and once again having a slow start as they did against TSM and fighting back. They now find themselves on the attack. 3-3 at the half, and surely Empire are going to feel confident about being able to come in and just slow things down a little bit, get a round or 2 over the line whilst they're on defense. Dan did particularly well on defense earlier, so I'm sure they're going to be hoping for more kills to come out of him. But right now, you just wouldn't put anything against Invictus winning this.
I came in thinking Empire, I think they'll find their form, they'll be okay, they'll come out this in strong form. For Invictus to get those 3 rounds, I think is not a bad outcome at all. Sure, it's on defense, say what you want about attack, defense, take your pick. Either way, they've done a really good job there, I think, of getting up in Empire's face, and HysteRiX especially. Although his stats might not be absolute blowout, you know, he's 3 and 5 and 4. It's more the attention that he was sucking away from Empire, that they constantly had to be mindful of him, that he was coming roaming around stairs. And sure, at a point they said, look, we've got to ignore him and start focusing on the execute now. He was still a little bit of a headache for them, and where he wasn't, you have players like SpeakEasy and Joe coming up huge for IG. Now let's see how Empire fare on their defense. That mirror, as I mentioned earlier on, always makes me nervous when I see Empire with it. Invictus are going to have to be very, very careful here in dealing with that.
Yeah, as you say, that's certainly a flashpoint to keep an eye on. We need to be watching that and see just how it progresses. ShepparD's going to play in behind that, and he's just going to look for any angles onto players coming in through that garage breach. Now, Scyther looks to see if he can get himself an aggressive peek, takes the jump out, takes the shots, but he won't find anybody. There's not even any chip damage done there, but it does give a little bit of a hint as to Scyther's location. He goes screaming back upstairs, maybe looking for more. Same window.
That slide was fun. I want to go back on it again. It's like, really? It's like, yeah. He's wondering if he actually tries it again. This would be amazing if he does.
Just heads instead to that yellow stairs window. He knows that there's somebody out there on rappel, and he certainly wants a piece of it. There's the wall in between him and the yellow stairs from the bathroom that might just prevent him being able to get the kill. So he's not going to drop out for the time being. JoyStiCK with the nitro from that famous position. Not going to find it. It hits his mark perfectly, but he's not going to find anybody on the end of it this time. But still not committing to going back to site. He's going to hold himself on yellow stairs. So now,
a little bit hopeful, maybe, is the way I'd look at that. Optimistic of the blind C4 coming out that it would find something, of course, with no Valkyrie on side, it being banned away. Didn't have that ability to make use of external information to make sure it definitely connects onto an ideal target. JoyStiCK finding Joe, getting traded out immediately by Luna, who was watching on the skylight. Good teamwork coming out of IG. To take that trade early on onto JoyStiCK. You're losing Sophia, sure, but arguably not the most pivotal part of your plans on this site. There's another one, SpeakEasy, now at the front door.
Once again, Invictus get themselves a man advantage. They get in there, get kills, and take the roamers down. That is Dan and JoyStiCK gone. Always Scyther, ShepparD. Look across them. There's only Scyther that's been putting down meaningful numbers of kills so far here. So, Invictus, they need to be feeling pretty positive about the potential for closing this one out. Lunarmetal's going to get himself down to that garage door again. There's going to be very little in the way of resistance, you would imagine, here. The remainder of Empire are likely to play this out on site. They're going to try to hold down their angles and just repel any push that comes in towards getting that diffuser down, and that is exactly what is happening. This is how Empire are going to shape up for this remaining 45 seconds.
These mirror windows, man, like I always say, they just make me nervous at this point. 40 seconds to play. I don't think there's really any information coming in. That's just a nice smoke coming in, by the way, to block out yellow stairs. Very commonly where you'll see someone step down. Can't imagine you want to just run down them and vault over into the lower area, mind you, or you find yourself getting tagged out. So not 100% sure on the point of that smoke coming out. No one really seems to have made a move just yet. And Jordan, man, he's really ripping up those floorboards. They clearly want some new ones fitted. In come the smokes, and Luna's going in for the plant. Question is, do they know there is an evil eye around here? In fact, there's two of them. Can they deal with both? Because something tells me they most likely can't. They could try and get in and punch them out if they choose to, and here comes the call. Invictus say, go for the kills. They try and step in, they're finding one, they found two. 1 versus 4, there's nothing else they can do. Always left alone, being challenged from the long angle. Jordan finds it. Invictus, 3 rounds on the bounce.
I think they had one just come down and push from the rear there, and that split Empire wide open. They weren't prepared for it. They were struggling for Invictus. They got the smoke canisters in there, but as she said, the evil eyes were making it very difficult to get the diffuser down, and of course you're time limited. Once you've put those smoke canisters in, there is only a finite amount of seconds before they wear off and you are exposed, and Invictus just have to keep relocating, trying to move somewhere else. And you just felt that it might fall apart a little bit, but no. Empire, they're the ones falling apart right now. They've taken the tactical timeout, and they're going to be just trying to have a discussion and slow things down here, because Invictus, they've just got themselves 3 rounds in a row, and they're doing again what they did to TSM.
Nervy, I think, for both of these teams, TSM and Empire. Imagine coming out of your first day on 0 and 2. You'll be really kicking yourself if it boils down to that point. You can see the conversation going on back and forth across the team as well, rather than so much just the coach being a highlight of potential issues. We hear from some coaches about what they do during these tactical timeouts. Some will say, you know, if we spot an issue in the team that we feel the IGL can't rectify, we'll step in and have a few words and have a conversation about it and offer our thoughts on that. Other teams take it for the players because they know what's going wrong, but they just need a bit of time to talk about it. And I get the feel that was a large part of that timeout for Empire. Conversation pretty much done. We're getting ourselves back into game in just a second.
Got to do something, Des. They've got to do something to turn this around, because the tide right now, the momentum is all with Invictus, and they're not the sort of team that I would like to play against at the moment, because they really are just riding that wave of energy and just getting the kills, and they did exactly the same against TSM, and they know that it might be unexpected, but they're not really worried about that. They're just looking to get in there and just continue doing what they are doing. Whether the pause will slow them down a little bit, for me, this is an important round. Empire have had their tactical timeout. They need to come back and they need to win this one here. They need to get it on the board, and they're going to be going up to the top floor to defend. If they lose this, they're 2 rounds behind. They're a tactical timeout gone, and they still can't halt Invictus. That becomes a big mental problem.
5 seconds remaining.
Alrighty. You love your 5-round point, don't you? That's like that's your golden milestone, I feel. If a team gets to 5 rounds, you're like, that's it. Mental shattered.
It is. It's getting towards that. It's not so much that. It's that 5-3 point where you've got 2 rounds clear and Empire are starting to feel like nothing's working. That's the point. That's the point where I think the mental becomes a problem.
All right, I'll take it. I'll get on board with that. I really like seeing the gridlock, by the way. Very rare you see this operator get picked up. Normally you lean towards something like a Nomad, of course, banned away on this map. Nomad normally for, not always, but it's kind of use of both, but internal and external flank watching, in a sense, or stopping jump outs. The gridlock only really useful for internal maps. You drop it on a stairway, for example, and block those off. Quite effective for that purpose. And I think that's maybe the main use case coming out of HysteRiX here for the side of Invictus, is blocking that off and stopping players like Dan having a field day running around the map and treating it like their personal playground.
HysteRiX just joining Joe up on the rooftop. Gonna have a look and see what they can get going from the skylights. Joe actually moves himself away, looking to support the push of SpeakEasy in towards admin, as is Jordan. So it's looking like a very heavy admin-sided push here. Not much attention towards yellow at all. Jordan just very aware of the potential for a run out there, but I don't think Empire are prepping for that too much. They really don't want to be throwing lives away at this point.
Absolutely. Halfway in through the round then, no one yet being taken out. It's being taken quite slow and patient by Invictus, who don't really need to panic yet. It was Empire who we saw being the ones pretty dangerously slow on the clock. On the side of Invictus, if you know you can operate well in those final 60 seconds, as we saw from Liquid against Empire early on today. We said a few times, you know, 2.5 minutes have elapsed, but we're not nervous because we know that Liquid feel confident going in for the executes. As long as Invictus show they can do the same, it shouldn't really be a big stress. Dan still established inside a meeting. Gonna take the drop. No, thinks about it, but thinks better of it. Keeps himself inside of there. Dan's such an important factor within this Empire team at the minute. Once again, up on 10 kills when 3 of his teammates are yet to surpass 5. He is going extremely well now. Jordan dumps in a nade there, looking to just clear out utility and just gain himself some sort of access to be able to make the challenge. But it's JoyStiCK ultimately from a whole world away down in basement that finds that opener onto Joe. 2 rounds in a row. He got Joe in the last round as well. Love that angle. Normally it's the kind of thing you have to drone out to really expect it as well. Up through the hatch, up through the soft flooring, onto the double window upstairs. Makes it an absolute nightmare to play, not just on the rappel, but also trying to get inside of the room itself. And Luna's going to be facing that problem now, as I believe there is still someone on the downstairs. The final 15 seconds, he's killed by Dan. Make it a double. The ShepparD actually connects one up for himself as well. HysteRiX fights back, SpeakEasy into another. Can't quite get the next. A shotgun to the face by ShepparD. And HysteRiX, a one-man mission with 5 HP and a dream. Not going to have anything else to do off the back of that round. Empire get round number 8 and finally break the win streak of Invictus.
I don't know why we expect anything other than tight games, Des, because it's every time we cast, and that is exactly what we are getting again. We are a fraction away from seeing all 12. There is the possibility of overtime looming as well. At 4-4 after 8, there is very little to separate these two teams. Each round is being hard fought, and that time Invictus just falling foul, first of all, of not finding JoyStiCK down in the basement. It was an easy pickup for him through the hatch and through the soft floor and onto the window rappel, but also Dan was never dealt with inside of meeting, partly thanks to JoyStiCK, and he was able to pick up kills towards the end there as well. They just never really gained the map control that they needed, so that will allow Empire to move on, and in round 9 they will be defending the bottom floor. They'll be going to garage and cafeteria.
And again, seeing those mirrors coming out, the one that we thought would cause such a huge problem in the previous iteration of the site back in round number 7. But for Invictus, they said, look, we're not going to be able to plant here. These evil eyes are giving us a headache. Let's just go for kills. Here, no Maestro on side, instead leaning in towards the Echo for always. Always nervous about it on the sheer fact that the cameras are visible and quite easy to take out, whereas with an evil eye, unless you can get up to them in melee range, there is a pretty fair chance you're not going to be able to clear them out. Unless, of course, you can get above with a couple of frag grenades and blow them out that way. Scyther again looking to be cheeky at this bathroom window. We've already seen one jump out. Doubt we see a second.
I doubt, as you say, that he'll go quite so aggressive. Does have a little look over at the spawn. Not going to find anybody as they choose to move around the other way and not expose themselves. Joe very aware of that bathroom window, as you say. Now, they did have an attempt earlier, didn't manage to land any shots, and it really is a one and done. You don't get to try that again because you're going to get punished if you do. Now, HysteRiX straight up onto the console rappel there, looking to potentially get in through the windows. Oh, no. It's a bad drone throw, and that means he'll either have to go and collect it, or he will have to rely on others feeding him the information.
I think given the fact he hasn't dropped off that rappel, because he knows he's got a bit of a duty up there to give some threat into console, going to have to leave that drone on the ground. Unfortunate, but one of those things you just got to be able to deal with. Now you can actually see as well, look at where the gridlock tracks are on the outside, by the way. I said normally you'd see them on like a stairway, but here they're actually outside in case of a jump out, I think. Maybe they're that terrified of the jump out from Empire coming out of, say, console, that if it does happen, they want to slow them down and make them have to kind of route around.
I mean, possibly, you know, going off the accuracy of that drone throw, Des, who knows? You know, maybe it was a bad throw, but ShepparD, he's going to be looking to make the challenges from behind the mirror window, but it's Joe to open things up onto Dan, and that's a big loss for Empire, as Lunarmetal has the opportunity to get the diffuser down always. He's trying to relocate the yokai, but he's not going to do it in time, and that's the drone missing the plant. It is successful, and Invictus are able to drop back down onto the driveway and hold long angles here, and this has just become an extremely difficult retake. ShepparD straight in, tries to get on the diffuser. He's got always on the cover. He could maybe stick this, but no. The first kill comes in. It was the only one that was needed. ShepparD manages to get one, but traded immediately to close out the round, and that's Invictus once again taking the lead.
It feels like such a typical execute as well, right? Like, smoke out, rush in, plant, get back outside for cover, and even with the yokai drones raining all around, we had Dan drop down from the bathroom hatch. There was a shield in the way, but he still got completely blasted out from yellow. He was kind of the man that was going to be the front line to defend against this plant coming through, get a couple of smokes out, for example, but it just didn't come to be. The only line of defense they had was these mirror windows, and as much as I kind of commended them before and said how effective I thought they were, I'm not so sure, because Empire are playing quite safely behind them, being very defensive, but almost too far away to stop this plant going down. There's no yellow control. There's no one actually playing inside of the garage area itself. And as it stands, they just simply aren't defending it well. That's why they've now chosen to step away from it. Press and lobby going to be what we head to for round number 10.
Invictus once again are starting to build themselves a little bit of momentum. They had the blip back in round 8 where Empire took the tactical timeout and then were able to come and lock down a successful defense, but it just broke a bit of a streak for Invictus as well. But they seem to have got straight back on the horse here, managing to get round 9-5-4. This one will give them the match point opportunity that they've been fighting so hard to gain. And as we've seen with the performance against TSM and the performance here against Empire, you wouldn't put this past them. Invictus are here to play, which goes without saying. They're at the Mexican Major. Of course they're here to play, but they were in a very difficult group where many discounted their chances, and I tell you what, they're showing us that they certainly didn't discount themselves.
Spicy. At the same time, by the way, I think Sonics versus Cyclops has just got underway, so another APAC team taking to the field over on the A stream. Really interested to see the outcome of that game, given Sonics win not too long ago against Team 1, and whether or not Cyclops can really add an interesting twist to today's tale. At least in this game, Invictus at 5-4 against Empire, 2 rounds away from claiming another critical win for APAC.
SpeakEasy just sending some utility in towards that deployable shield. Looks like that was likely successful. They will also be just clearing out some more inside of the main door. So it certainly looks like they're going to be shaping up for a main door plant potentially here. JoyStiCK's going out to clear more up on the top level as well. Now this is a quick one. They're going straight in by the bomb chassis. There are Toxic Babe canisters, but they've missed the mark. The smoke canister from the attackers will keep the man safe, and that is a successful plant. Kills raining in as well. Jordan, Lunarmetal, they're going to get themselves an opportunity here. Lunarmetal on the cover as always jumps out with an immediate trade there. 3 versus 1 as SpeakEasy finds Scyther. It's all down to ShepparD in a 1 versus 3. We've seen him do it already once today. He finds the first, has to take the jump out to take the challenge on the second. He knows he has no choice, and Lunarmetal with a nice calm attitude finds the kills. Look at that, no panic in the man, and that is going to give Invictus the match point opportunity, and they could go 2-0 in what seemed two very difficult games on day one.
Hard to control that spray at that range, maybe for ShepparD as well. Seemed to shoot everywhere except for where the man himself was. But again, I'll commend IG massively. Was a pretty rapid attack. Got themselves open on the front door. Got the vertical control to force the players of Empire outside of meeting. Got the smokes down, destroyed the Evil Eyes with frag grenades, for example. 2 smokes came through, 1 to block anti-chamber, 1 to cloud over Lunarmetal while he was going for the plant. And there was just no response coming out of the side of Empire. They didn't have anything they could possibly do. The smokes had already been deployed. They'd missed the man that was going for the plant. Just really well orchestrated by IG, and Empire just struggling to deal with these attacks. It's really quite interesting to watch.
It certainly is, and we can see that we're just in a tactical timeout here taken by Invictus. I'm not sure exactly what they want to break down there, but they maybe just felt that they were...
One more rush. One more
That's it.
rush.
That's what the discussion obviously is. I mean, they obviously feel like there was something that they needed to deal with to iron out. You don't just break your own momentum for no reason. They're just looking to guarantee themselves the win here. They want to get it over the line, and they want to make sure that they do that at the first attempt, if at all possible. We can see Gig just feeding plenty of information into the team there. And the thing is, Des, that we've got to remember about this side. There is a lot of experience here. They are not going to be phased by having to close this game out. This is not new ground to them.
Oh, no. Absolutely not. The question is, what do they employ to close the game out? Is there some wild idea they've got up their sleeves here that they're thinking of deploying? Or is it something a little bit more clear-cut and air quotes, dare I say, normal? Not so much that rushing in and, getting a plant down the way they have isn't normal or that it isn't proper. But I'm thinking more of a structured attack on their hands, or is it going to be something a little bit different? It is 6 and 4. They've got 2. Okay, yeah. It's a cheesy rush. It's an Amaru. Okay.
I mean, I was just going to say, they could rush in for early kills. They could hide in a bathtub. They could rush in and put the diffuser down on the ground by the bomb chassis. But they've tried all of those.
What haven't they tried? They haven't tried the Amaru. Now, for this Amaru rush, there's a couple of ways that you can play it. One is coming up through that piano hatch, murdering everyone, and then going for the plant off the back of it. Others could just be trying to force your way up here onto the windows. Like, you do have options. You could zip into connector and not worry about having the plant on side. Lots of things to make good use of here. Keeping a really close eye on HysteRiX then to see what he does in the early rounds. Yeah,
absolutely. That's going to be... let's not forget, there's always the option for using it in the late round. We've seen that used once or twice to some great success. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about, you basically see how the round goes. You get yourself a couple of kills. There you go. That's a big start down onto Joe. That's going to take the Zephyr down. It does still leave HysteRiX on the Amaru. But what you do is basically you wait until you've got some map control. You're in a position to think about putting the diffuser down. You get all the attention of the defenders onto one side. So, for example, here, you would get them all focusing towards admin. Your entire push would be admin. But you would have HysteRiX stood at the bottom of those console windows on the Amaru. And as soon as you're confident that Empire are completely focused through meeting towards admin, he zips up through console and kills 2 or 3 in the back. And that's happened in the late round once or twice. And it's another interesting use. Now, for the time being, Amaru hasn't zipped into the map anywhere. So, it looks like there could be an alternative use coming out here.
Not yet. But later, as you say, it could be the play. We'll see. But I think for this point, if nothing else, is making sure they've got the sound bases to start threatening into sight so that they can make use or put some maximum effect to HysteRiX on at this Amaru. Imagine, for example, you pressure a meeting, all of Empire's attention's on that side of the map, and then she just zips up from inside the piano and shoots 2 or 3 people in the back. You need that forward-facing pressure, though, from the rest of the team. So I understand entirely why Invictus, at least for now, are both partially making this look like a normal attack, but also making sure it actually is a real attack coming in from the admin side.
Lunarmetal's just going to head up onto the rooftop with the thermite for the time being. Done his job there, opened up that line of sight. That's going to allow a nice visual all the way through into meeting. Now then, HysteRiX is heading downstairs. I think he's got some information that there is a player down here somewhere. I don't believe there is anybody on the 3 ping, but we've got the Gon 6 out, ready to burst this door open for him. There it goes. Scyther gets the kill onto Lunarmetal. HysteRiX was sure that there was somebody there, but he's chasing shadows. There we go. The Mozzie of JoyStiCK comes around from the bottom and spiral, looks to make a challenge, takes a bit of damage, but dips away into the map. very little chance, I would say, that Invictus managed to get this over the line, because Empire are all over the map, and it's all coming down to the Amaru of HysteRiX here. He knows that there's one behind the shield. There's nothing he can do. Gets in, gets the challenge onto one, but surely an impactless kill as ShepparD steps around the corner with the shotgun, and we're going all the way to the 12th round.
I mean, they've tried. The big question now for me is, where do Empire go? Because they go down into basement, potentially, where they've already seen themselves losing out in round number 9. They could go to press lobby, where they've also found themselves losing out in round number 10. Top floor is the only place they've seen any success in this second half, but they've got to play one of those sites they have not done well on. They've lost Garage and Cafeteria twice in round 7 and 9. Both of them to some really good plant attempts coming out of the side of Invictus. Either that, or Invictus just say, right, we go for kills here, we push through and end the round. So this, or win the round, sorry, I guess is the one to look at. So I don't know. I'm nervous for Empire coming into round 12, Tim.
I am as well, because I can't see that Invictus do that. Invictus so far have played well on the plant down in basement, and I don't see any reason for them to do any different. You know, it's such a textbook attack intake. It hasn't changed in the last 12 months or more. You get down there, you open the breach up, you smoke off, and you get the diffuser down. You just need to hold the angle from yellow stairs to prevent nitros coming over as best you can, and you get the diffuser down, and that works a lot of the time. So if I'm Invictus, I'm thinking play the odds here. This is an attack that generally works. This is an attack that's been perfected. This is an attack that we've won with so far today. Let's just do that again and just do it really well.
Why fix what ain't broken, right?
Exactly that.
5 seconds left before
all right. Let's give it a whirl and see how this one shapes out. Whether it's going to be that vertical control. Empire again sitting behind these mirrors that I commended earlier on. I thought their mirror play had been great on maps like Oregon. And seen them use them a couple of times. Even here on Consulate and EUL, they've done great with them. But at least here, Invictus are fully abusing the fact that they are sat so far back away from the garage doorway itself. But it does make me a little bit nervous. Here we go. Luna heading in towards the door. Wants to get both of these open, which he has done incredibly quick historically. Grenades from SpeakEasy to make sure there's nothing on the other side of it, to make sure it gets open nice and easy. However, they should be happy that nothing is there. So this should be opened up nice and easy. Not even a mute jammer on the wall at this point, Tim.
Yep, absolutely no denial at all. So inside of 30 seconds, we've got the first breach open, the second will follow. So as I said, it looks like Invictus are just playing this by the book, nice and simple. Get the breach open, get inside of it, and get the diffuser down. As it is, they know they need to pay attention to any roamers that are out there. What they don't want is people being able to get into piano, open angles up, play vertically on top of them, or to come back down yellow stairs and make their life difficult. So right now, let's make sure that we're clearing out Scyther. Let's force them back to site, and then we can think about getting back down there and getting the diffuser down on the ground. JoyStiCK could be a big sticking point here. He's only had 5 kills so far. He's had a very quiet day for day 1 of the Mexican Major. This is his moment.
You know what I find really interesting as well is how much more passive Empire are being on this round. Think back to their game earlier. They had 3 players on the top floor, all looking to be chaotic. It's almost like they're so scared of being rushed off by Invictus on the downstairs. Not that it was a rush so much as before, as much as it was like a late delay but very quick and pacey attack and going for a plant. It's almost like they want to make sure that they aren't committing too heavily to the top floor and can get back downstairs pretty comfortably. That's exactly what JoyStiCK will do now. It feels like now that he's giving them a couple of jitters and thinking, oh, maybe he is on the top floor. He's just destroyed all of our gridlock tracks. At least now it's back onto the side, so for the side of Invictus, they can put all their focus on the downstairs.
There's a pre-placed nitro that could hit 2 of them if they are not careful here. I don't know exactly what Dan's waiting for, what information he's expecting to be fed in, but he knows that they're active above him here. He knows that the nitro is pre-placed. There it goes, but it will be unsuccessful. Jordan just managing to get himself onto the stage, and that just shows good management from the sledge. Yes, you're opening up those angles, but you got to keep getting back on that stage to keep yourself safe from those explosives. Dan, he takes up a very aggressive position there on the yellow stairs, ready to challenge anybody coming from piano. JoyStiCK opens one up. Lunarmetal, this is heading to overtime, Des, as Dan gets himself one, and that leaves now Empire 5 versus 2 as JoyStiCK gets another. This is all going in their favor. Surely Jordan can't do this. 1 versus 4 becomes 1 versus 3, but there's only 11 seconds left to go. He cannot find Dan. Dan shuts him down, and we're going to overtime again, back to back.
Oh boy. You look at this as Invictus and be saying, man, we had 2 rounds to close this out and we could do nothing. Empire have done well to hold on. fight their way back in. Invictus start on the defense for the overtime. We've had quite a few overtimes today, actually. I'm kind of surprised it has gone this far. But let's not also forget that the impact that has on the group standings, because this is, of course, the points-based thing. 3 points for a clean win, 2 points for an overtime win, 1 point for an overtime loss, and nothing for an outright loss. So it does matter that we've got through to overtime. Sure, both teams walk away with points, but in a group that's like square up to be super tight like this one, every single point counts.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
It really does. As you say, we've already seen TSM take a couple of losses, and they're going to do everything they can to fight back in their later matchups. Of that you can be sure. And like you say, it really could come down to the difference between, it could even be beyond points. You know, it's very, very possible, very plausible that we will see teams finishing on the same values and having to go to those other factors like head-to-heads and round differences. So it is very, very important. But Empire, they're doing everything they can. They've secured themselves a point at least, as losing in overtime will get them 1 point, but they're going to be looking for more than that. They've just got themselves 2 rounds, round 11, round 12, showing that they've got the stamina, they've got the resilience to be able to fight their way back into a tough matchup like this one. Invictus, they might just be feeling a little bit on the back foot here, as Empire are really starting to come back at them now.
That's the scary thing, right, is how do you hold on? I mean, Clash is definitely going to be one way towards that, assuming Luna doesn't throw like he did the last time they played the Clash. I mean, the round was already basically won for them, but dropping the shield and charging at someone, probably not really the way to be playing it out. In case you are following updates on the other stream, by the way, it is currently 2-1 to the Sonics against Cyclops on Chalet. Those things are squaring up, the APAC team at least finding a round on the board, but it's still going to be the Sonics leading ever so slightly in the lead. In this game, at least, you've got Scyther going across the playing on the Twitch that we didn't see all that much of in the first half. In fact, I think it was IG that were running that Twitch more often than not. And this is where you see that Clash starting to come into her own. The information feeding antics. Joe almost getting killed from up on high as well. That's not so good.
Not a great start at all. They were able to clear out the mute jammer from the skylight. That's going to give an opportunity should they so choose, but ShepparD's the only hard breach, so that bathroom wall is going to stay shut anyway. Sometimes it can be an interesting open if you've got an ace or a Hibana on side that can do it at range. It just gives a really nice line of sight through into the connector. Can be always to start us off though with a kill onto Jordan. That's taking the Jaeger down with a nade, and that is going to be, I was going to say a second, but Scyther gets taken down off the rappel by Joe. ShepparD, however, manages to find the trade there. 4 versus 3, and Empire looking like they are starting to move into command of this one, as always gets the kill onto SpeakEasy.
HysteRiX with a great C4 from below onto 1. However, HysteRiX is left entirely alone. Empire might just be about to find the 3rd round in a row. Big step up for them, considering into how things are going all the way back in round number 10. Feels like a lifetime ago. HysteRiX going for the 1 challenge, can't quite find it. Knows the man's there, finds one, but Plant is down. Does he know to his left? No, he doesn't. Although the shots are getting missed, at least in the first case, coming out from ShepparD. Now he connects onto it. HysteRiX falls down. Empire move up to match point.
Perfect timing for Empire, and you'd really have to weight it in their favour now, given that they move on to the defence. They didn't do fantastically well, it is fair to say, on the defence. It was 3-3, but it felt like a lot of those rounds could have been snatched away by Invictus. But right now they have the opportunity to just take their favourite site, the one they did the best on, and it's no surprise that they're going to be heading up to the top floor. It is where we've seen Empire defend best so far against Invictus, and they are now just 1 round away from locking this one down and putting 2 points up on the board. Now, considering that we would expect, well, we would have expected TSM to be the closest competitors to Empire overall when it came to, you know, potentially fighting for that 2nd place after Liquid have taken 2 wins to begin with today. This is big, given that TSM have 0 points. For Empire to be able to extend and get themselves 2 points, that's going to be a big thing for them. They're going to have to obviously battle against Invictus, but let's not forget, Empire have already played Liquid. Invictus have yet to play Liquid. So you'd have to argue that it puts them on then a very similar footing in that chase for a qualification spot.
We hope so. Let's see how it shapes up then. Again, going to see the gridlock coming along, and it's been kind of a staple for these attacks of IG. I'm wondering if it's partly because of the smokes. We've seen them use a lot of them in their actual executes, right? I think it's why you've seen the Twitch coming along once or twice as well. And the tracks themselves, all right, sure, they maybe slightly impeded the side of Empire for a while, but I think everything else almost served as a bit of a distraction too, because let's not forget, JoyStiCK tagged a bunch of them out when they were deployed out towards the service stairs, and that kind of had Invictus thinking, okay, we know someone's there, he could be back around at any time. I mean, sooner you know that he's there than not, but it was still enough that they were giving that indication and making everything slow down a little bit for the attackers. At least here there's quite a hold and quite a presence up towards the top floor. We've got Banshees, ADSs, shields, bulletproofs, everything. So you know that the intent is to hold this one quite aggressively rather than say playing for downstairs on the deny. But keep an eye on Scyther, who's playing with that C4 below alongside JoyStiCK.
Always is low health at this point. He's going to take the jump out though. Doesn't find anybody. Shut down by Lunarmetal. It was never going to take much, as always was low health at that point in time. One bullet catches him and that is all it takes. So that is advantage Invictus here. 5 versus 4. Empire, they're in the favoured defensive side, but they can't just go throwing themselves onto the guns of Invictus like that. Joe is watching for this potential jump out. You can see that Empire are absolutely itching for it. They're back at the windows once again. They just want that opportunity. But if they go for it, you've got to feel that they're probably going to lose another man.
High risk, high reward play, right? If it goes right, you net yourself 2 kills, you basically win the round. It goes wrong, you start bleeding members in the same way that always had. Didn't even get a snag down onto Luna. Great C4 coming out from JoyStiCK from below. That one went alley-oops up over into yellow and killed Luna whilst he was pushing up those stairs. So a really good C4, one that you touched on earlier on today. No jump out coming out of Dan onto that south side balcony. He might have found Joe if he did try it not too long ago. Now that he's back to where I imagine we won't see Empire going too aggressive out of windows anymore.
HysteRiX straight into yellow stairs. Then after they've lost one man there, they're pretty sure that another will not follow. Joy still, his time is being eaten up by this potential jump out. 1 minute left to go in Invictus. They need to get themselves moving here. They don't want to start losing this round because they have to throw themselves into late challenges that is not in their advantage. SpeakEasy still on that window, looking for anything he can find. Dan finally gets him. Scyther, ShepparD, it's all going to Empire. They close it down and they manage to get themselves 2 points and they get themselves moving here at the Mexico Major.
Took a bit of time. It took a fight back. It took a few scares, some may even say, but Empire do find that much needed win. That is one hell of a way to spice up this group now, because IG still sit ahead of TSM. TSM bottom on 0 and 2, Empire 1 and 1, IG 1 and 1, Liquid sat at the top on 2-0. That means coming into tomorrow and of course into Wednesday, well, as of right now, it's IG and Empire fighting it out in the middle of the pack. Can't wait to see how that one develops.
I can't wait to just sit down after we finish tonight. That was our last game here, of course. We're going to have a look over all the standings and everything very, very shortly, so don't go anywhere. And I can't wait to see how all the groups are shaping up, how things are looking, and just exactly what is going on. And this Group D is going to be fascinating, Des.
Ain't it just? I mean, realistically, Liquid look good enough. I think that they aren't really too worried about being challenged at the top. So now it's kind of this brawl amongst these lower 3 teams. And with IG already showing they can beat TSM, only means they have to really come into a TSM, beat them again, or hope that Empire lose against them. And then it comes down to a showdown between IG and Empire at some point again. Well, it's going to be really close and hard to call.
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there, Des. The people that are really laughing about all these results, the people that are really loving it, is Team Liquid. The day has gone perfectly for them.
It has indeed. I mean, Russians, Empire, they look about as calm and composed as they can be here. No big massive celebrations as we saw out of IG earlier on when they brought down TSM. It kind of is what it is. No worries on that front for them. They know that there's still a lot more work to do at this competition. I think if you're on IG side though, a lot to still be excited about here. They had some really good attacks in this map. Some really good burst forward, for example. More than prepared to, you know, get in deep and dirty. Get some smokes down, get in and get the plant. Luna really putting life on the line to make things happen, but it worked out wonderfully for them.
Certainly did. It was, I mean, a great performance again from Invictus. I think if nothing else, what they've done there is they've really set the stall out as being a team that can deliver more than maybe a lot of us expected, if we're honest.
You know, a man who always delivers more than I expect? Jackie. Let's get him back in as well and have a chat to him about this game, because Jackie, we've had another pretty spicy one there, I think it's fair to say.
Generous takeaway. You just get far more than you expected. But that series was far more than we expected, right? Sat there on the edge of my seat, I don't know at what point my brain started to just tell me that they were going to 2-0, and then at what point I had realized that the dreams were crushed and they were going to go 1-1. But Empire stepping up to the plate towards the end, right, looking way better. Night and day difference on Consulate, Tim, compared to the last time we saw them.
Yeah, absolutely. It was certainly a better performance from them. But, you know, was it good enough? No, I don't think it was. No. You know, if you're looking at Empire as a team that could potentially go on and win the major, which is something we were maybe considering. This is the #1 team from EUL in Stage 2, let's not forget. That performance wasn't good enough, is the top and bottom of it. You know, are they going to come out and beat teams like NIP and Liquid? Probably not. Are they going to beat somebody like SSG like that? Probably not. The thing is, that is important to remember, though, I'm not just getting on the case of Empire. The big thing to remember, and I've said this before, at tournaments, form and the time that you hit it is very, very important. So Empire, they can have a weak first few games. As long as they get themselves through that group stage, there is a much better time in this tournament to hit form, and that is in the later stages.
Absolutely. The fact is as well, when you look at it for Invictus, right, they've had a good showing there so far in the group. At this point, I think they've commanded a lot more respect. You think about the other teams they've still got to play, right? At this point, it does make you realize, all right, it's no pushover. That's not going to be an easy game. By no means is it a bye at all. Invictus are here to make a case for themselves. They've already done that versus TSM. The close run they've had here as well. If anything, Des, I'd hope it would at least give them confidence to play out the rest of their games with their heads held high.
I mean, one other thing to consider coming out of today, you've taken teams to maps where they played against really strong opposition. They played against Liquid on Consulate and on Villa earlier on. That was, of course, Empire and TSM's map. They then come back to the same map again. So both of those two teams, TSM and Empire, have played the same map twice. IG have come in fresh on both of those maps and played really well. Beating TSM, challenging Empire. They've showed what they can do, I think, and I can't wait to see them get onto a map where they feel more comfortable and see what they can do. If they get kind of a... I don't really know, to be fair, what their strongest maps are right now. It's always unknown coming into a tournament, what they've been saving, what they've been working on, for example. But honestly, they've put on a really good performance today, and I'm super excited to see what they can do tomorrow.
Absolutely. But what we do have to get into now is, of course, the stats from that series. It was an 8-6 matchup with Empire walking away as the victors. In terms of the big fraggers, once again, for Empire, though, it's Dan out in the forefront, 17 frags. Tim, obviously, we saw him popping off massively in his first series. Once again, he's the one that's picked up the mantle for the side of Empire.
That's it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We were critical in the first game because, yes, there was a lack of contribution from the other players on Empire. This time, it was a much more even spread across. It's not the end of the world. An important stat to look at there is cost across the bottom, and it's no surprise to see on the side of Empire, everybody above 70%, 2 stretching into 86%, and much better overall than Invictus, and that's the difference that's taken them over the line. That's their contribution sort of round to round to these team activities. They've all been chipping in, and that's very important. It gives Empire something to work with. It gives them a good foundation to grow